if what used to blow my skirt up or blow my hair back doesn't do that anymore. So who does that make me now if that's not who I am?
Welcome to That Explains a Lot.
Real conversations about this messy, magical life.
We talk about the things that don't make sense until suddenly they do.
Yeah, episode 3 of
Whoa.
That Explains a Lot.
That explains a lot. And today we're going to be talking about when the old version of you stops working. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
Right? So this is one that comes up. We have this need as human beings, this desire, this privilege to stay in the evolution.
Yeah.
And so nobody's exempt from that process. And there's gonna be times when the old version stops working. And what do you do when that happens?
Yeah. And that's the thing with any kind of personal development work. If you're working on yourself, and once you know, you can't not know.
That's right. That's
And
right.
now
And
you're stuck
unsee
for
it.
life having to keep evolving all the time.
That's right. I can't unsee it.
Yeah.
That's
Can't go,
right.
wait a minute, I didn't know that. You can't use that as an excuse anymore.
There it is. You're like, this is not working. And so what do you do when it's no longer working? And how do you manage it first internally, the internal dialogue, and how do you give yourself permission to think about, well, what do you want to do next? What's
Yeah.
up? What's next? So
I have a perfect example of this, and it has to do with my introduction to personal development. I was
okay.
21 when one of my bosses at the time handed me a set of cassettes. Brian Tracy. They were Brian
Okay.
Tracy cassettes.
Yes.
And I had this little 72 Corolla. It was orange, and we used to call it the baked bean because it looked like a baked bean. And I used to play those tapes over and over and over in my car, just, driving around. And my story is I come from a big family, 8 kids, grew up in a country town in Australia. My mum and I had a pretty contentious relationship. So, it was tough.
Yeah.
I can say that it was tough. And as a kid, I'm building up resentment and building up a bit of a hatred for my mother, which is why I left home when I was 17.
Well, that's so abnormal. That's
Yeah,
so
I know. I know. Left home when I was 17, left my hometown when I was 18.
Wow.
And so for the first, 5 years that I lived in Sydney, I started managing fitness clubs when I was 21. I, really rose to the top of that profession very quickly. And my motivator for that was to stick it to my mother, because I wanted to show her that how successful I could be without her.
That's right. I don't need you, Mom.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and I remember listening to those Brian Tracy tapes one day in the car, and it kind of hit me and thinking, oh, wait a minute, this is not healthy. And I realized, so I had empathy and went, oh my God, what if I had 8 kids? Would I have shown up any differently? And I actually had some empathy for my mum and dad and how difficult it would have been for them. And they really did sacrifice a lot of their adult life to bring up 8 kids.
Well,
right?
Yeah, you do. 8.
You have 2, so you know a little bit about what that's like.
I'm like, you're talking about 8, and I'm just like.
So I remember driving back to Orange, my hometown, one weekend, and having an individual conversation with my dad and my mum around, just telling them how much I was grateful. Because that tumultuous thing with my mum really developed my independence and my resilience. Which I may not have had if it hadn't been for that situation, or
That's
maybe
right.
not as much. And I forgave them, and I felt really good about it. But then it's like, oh, I don't have that burning hatred as a motivator anymore. So why
wait a
am I
minute.
doing this?
What am I doing this for? Right? What is
Right.
it? That old version of you didn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's because I knew better. I'd started my personal development journey, and I knew better. I knew something different.
Yeah.
And I think that when we get to this age in our life, that if we haven't done any personal development work, because our life isn't as hectic and busy as it usually is with kids and family and everything, we've got more time for ourselves. We get more time to listen to ourselves. Anything that we haven't really worked on,
Yeah.
becomes really front and center and loud
Yeah.
and clear.
Yeah. Yeah. Because nobody's exempt from the work. You can put it off because you're busy. You
Yeah,
can put it off because there's distractions, but it's gonna follow you.
yeah,
And so I think that's an interesting one, that there is a point in everybody's life where it's like there is going to be a version of you, part of you, that is no longer, it's no longer working.
yeah,
And so how do you, what do you do with that? How do you look at it? I mean my example of this is a little bit different, but same but different. But I'm in a transition with, literally, with my name. I've been married for 20 years to Jared Patrick, and I've been legally, on paper, legally, I've been Susan Patrick for 20 years, but that's been my personal name. My professional name, since I've been born, I guess, right, has been Susan Leahy. That was my maiden name. And so I do all my business by Susan Leahy. And that was really fun for me for years. I liked having two identities. I liked having that kind of forward facing identity of Susan Leahy. And I was doing my work and had my online business. But now that I've turned 50, something has shifted in me. And I think it came down to, I was telling somebody, I was like, oh, I'm Susan Leahy for work and I'm Susan Patrick for pleasure. And then I realized I don't want to be the work side as much as I want to just be this next phase that's going to work for me is about really living more in that space of pleasure. I
mm,
want to have more fun. I want to enjoy myself more. I want to challenge myself to, the better it gets, the better it gets. And so
yeah,
I'm here, I am at 50 years old, not changing my name because I'm getting married, but really just because I'm choosing to step more fully into the identity that I feel more aligned with. And so that, I mean, that's up for me, is like letting go of who I've been,
yeah,
because it's not who I want to be. So whether it's through kind of healing past hurts, or it's through the recognition of this just isn't working anymore. What do I want next? It's,
yeah,
there is going to be a time when the old version of you, it just stops working.
yeah. And then you get into the panic of, well, who am I now?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember being at a seminar once, and it was personal development, and I remember this woman, and I quote this all the time because it was just shocking to me. And this woman goes, "You don't understand. If I don't hate my mother, I have no idea who I am."
Whoa.
I was like,
Whoa.
I'm like, that
Whoa.
is all consuming,
Yeah, yeah,
you
and
know?
that became her identity,
Yes.
right?
It became part of who she was. Like, I think anyone who knew her, who had met her, knew that she had it a mother.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow, and she was wearing it like a badge,
Yeah. But
right?
not
And so,
realizing how toxic it was.
no, golly,
Yeah.
whoa, 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 that's a
Yeah,
big
yeah,
one, right? So, that when you've gotta let go of the old version of yourself, you're gonna mess with your equilibrium.
yeah.
Right? Letting go. I remember, so when we moved to Mexico, almost 11 years ago now, I remember for the first 6 months, it was completely disorienting, and I just, everything smelled different and looked different, and I mean, it just, and I think that when they say you're homesick, it's because your body is physiologically, your body's not plugged in. You gotta get your
Right.
body used to wherever you are, and the
Mm.
only thing we brought with us is we shipped our car. And so the only thing that felt familiar was my car. And I remember one time I was sitting in my car and I was absolutely having a meltdown, and I'm
Mm.
just losing it. I'm crying and my kids are in the back. My husband's in the driver's seat and everyone's silent because mom is just losing it. And I remember I had this moment, and it was actually a really beautiful moment, but I somehow turned around, looked at my kids through these just tears that were cascading down my face, and I looked at them and I said, just so you know, this is where mommy is right now, but it's not where mommy's gonna be forever.
Right.
And so it was like, at least I had the wherewithal in that moment to remind myself and everyone around me that in between of letting go of my, I'm Susan from California. No, I'm not.
Mm.
I'm Susan now, expat living in Mexico, and that in between space of letting go of who I was, whoa, was really disorienting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think too that when you're going through this shift, I think we're all stepping out of different roles. So once you step out of a role like that, you do have these kind of thoughts like, well, if I'm not driven the same way, does it still make me ambitious?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
if I'm
Yeah.
if what used to blow my skirt up or blow my hair back doesn't do that anymore. So
That's
who does that make me now if that's not who I am?
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Who Yeah, and well, and those things that used to be the motivator are not motivating me, and so what do I grab onto?
Yeah.
So it does feel like a little bit of, like you're in some really unfamiliar terrain.
Yeah. And for women at our age, I mean, there's some common threads. There's some common things that a lot of women go through, like things like being a caretaker, like a mother.
Mm, yeah,
You're used to being felt like you're being useful, that you're being
yeah,
supported, that people need you.
yeah, yeah,
Empty nesters.
yeah,
Once the kids are off to college, it's like, oh my
yeah,
God, like who needs me now? Like,
yeah.
and it feels like this big part of your identity is
Mhm.
just gone.
Gone.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and it's really different, right? Those phases are really distinct with children. They're really obvious. And as a mother, if you don't allow yourself to own each distinct phase and let yourself let go of who you were, because if you try to parent, and I think this is why a lot of relationships between children and parents falter, is that because the caregiver gets stuck in the caregiving and
right.
doesn't evolve their role.
Or puts the kids
You
first
know,
before
you
their
know,
spouse.
yeah, and then at the detriment of themselves,
Yeah.
right?
And the
So,
relationship. Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, and I think you do an amazing job of conscious parenting, but you're very conscious of all the different stages of parenting. So I think by the time, your kids are ready to go off and be independent, you'll be able to handle it better than most.
But I'm not exempt from the processes,
No, no, of
like,
course
that's
not.
the crazy thing is it is a process no matter who you are, what you are, human beings, we're gonna go through this process, and you're not exempt from feeling disoriented,
Yeah.
feeling like all of these kind of these emotions when you're letting go of being the caretaker, or another one that was big for me, like, back when I was in college, I was the achiever. I was
Mm,
I was the president of my college, and I was on the dean's list, and I was it was always about the validation from achieving and having certain titles. And when that my it's funny, my dad, I remember when I won the presidency of the college. I was the ASI president, and people were popping champagne bottles, and it was a big deal. And I'm on the phone with my dad, and my dad tells me this story. He's like, that it's really easy to love yourself when the phone is ringing and everybody's in the office praising you, but are you going to love yourself when no one's calling?
mm, mm,
And that, I think we all have those phases in our lives, where we're doing something and we're really important, but there's also going to be moments in our life where I'm not important and
yeah,
people aren't calling. And
yeah,
can I love myself through those moments?
yeah.
You
Yeah, it's
know?
like stepping out of something significant. Like, I don't think I felt it so much when I left the fitness industry, even though I was very well recognized and at the top of my game. Because, I went straight into a business with my new husband, and that was a nightclub. So uh, there was no
That's
time, no time to mourn and grieve the loss of that career.
yeah.
I was straight in the deep end.
Yep.
But when we sold the nightclub,
Yeah.
like, we were very recognized in Sydney. It was a very popular club. And, I did go through a bit of a loss of identity with that one,
Oh yeah.
as did Glenn. It was like, oh, so we're not on we used to be the ones throwing the party. Now we're on the guest list and
Yeah, am I
waiting in
like, yeah.
line to go to a
Yeah,
nightclub. You're
I
like,
have to show my ID?
wait, I
What?
have to get in line? What do you mean?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting one, and that's an important evolution,
Yeah.
right? Giving yourself permission to step away from the familiar so that you can create space to evolve into whatever the next iteration of yourself is gonna become,
Yeah.
right?
And I
Um,
think too that even when you're releasing something big like that, um, y y there's always something beautiful on the other side
mhm,
because you are
mhm,
still you.
yeah, Yeah.
You can step into anything else that you want to after that and still show up as and you're evolving. So you're showing up as a better version of you in something that's, suitable for you at this time of life.
Yeah.
And you are drawing on all of the lessons and the achievements and the skills and everything that you've gathered along the way to
Yeah.
get to this point. It's
So
going to
wait, what
show
you're
up.
saying is I'm not starting at ground zero?
You're
Like
not
that's
starting at
is
ground
it
zero.
'cause I think that's sometimes what people do, right? They
Yeah.
feel like, "Oh, well, I've gotta start all over."
Hmm.
You're not starting all over. You're
No.
bringing how many years of wisdom and experience and transferable skills. So I think there's and I guess I'm saying this as much to people who are listening as I say it to myself because I've really had to work hard in this transition to be kind of my own motivational speaker.
Hmm.
Like, I've had to remind myself, and I've had to be patient with myself, and I've had to be my own uplifter more than I ever have. I feel like when you're younger, you've got, like, the world, the wind at your back, and the world is expecting you. Like, I kind of feel like it's a little more of a lonelier journey when you get older.
I think
Um
it is. And you also want to make sure that you've surrounded yourself with people that can, that are your
Huge.
cheerleaders.
Huge,
That's
and
like
yeah,
massively important
y y y
because in
y
the quiet
huge.
moments, because, I have intentionally surrounded myself with incredible people. But I tell you, through the pandemic and through that lockdown, man, that
Mhm.
voice of doubt got really loud
Really
because I
loud.
didn't have other people to bounce things off and for them to be like, "No, Nat, you've got this. You can do this."
Mhm.
I didn't
Yeah.
have that reassurance.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
me.
It was
I
just
didn't like
you.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's harder work.
Yeah.
It takes more discipline, it takes more intention, it takes more, resilience. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of tools for younger people who are discovering their next path and where they're gonna
Mhm.
go next, but I do feel like sometimes it's like a little like, when you're doing it when you're older, but it
Well, yeah, and I think the other thing too is that for us to step into something at this time, especially if we're coming out of like a marriage or a career
yeah.
or a business where, we've had to give a lot of ourselves, we have to, and I don't want to say selfish because there's such a negative energy around that word, but we have to really start to focus on ourselves
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Like,
change
that
the
is
way.
not negative. Focusing on yourself is
Yeah.
not negative. I love that,
Yeah,
right? Like,
and it's like
yeah.
positive selfishness. It's like, no, I
Mhm.
need to work on myself here. So if you've ever been the good girl in your life and
Mm,
you're the emotional glue where you're keeping everything else together,
mhm.
this can be a challenge.
Yes, a huge challenge.
Yeah,
I have to say, in this phase of my life, you were talking about friendships, right?
yeah,
I think I've been a good girl with friendships, and I've always been the emotional glue for everyone. And I realized I had a lot of people in my life who would share a lot of their problems, and I want to be a space where people feel seen. But I also realize I don't want to be a dumping zone for other
mm,
people's emotional upset.
yeah,
And so I've had to let go of who I've been in friendships, and sometimes that means you're letting go of friendships
yeah,
so that you're bringing in people who are meeting you at that level. I think everybody gets to go through a divorce, whether it's a marital divorce or a friend divorce,
yeah,
like everybody a business divorce. I think that that is an experience that is human.
yeah,
Oh, the marriage is temporary, divorce is forever,
yeah.
right? So
Well,
right, and that you have to let go, you've gotta let go of who you've been so that you can start surrounding yourself with the people that are gonna be the uplifters,
yeah.
you know?
So I think, obviously being kind to yourself, surrounding yourself with cheerleaders is really important. Setting healthy
Being your own
boundaries.
cheerleader.
Yeah, being your own cheerleader,
Mhm,
but setting healthy boundaries too, because it's difficult for people who are used to talking to you, being with you, exchanging things with you a certain way. Because when you start to go, that's not working anymore. So this is what the new rules are. This is the new rules of engagement. This is how we want. I would like for you to treat me, or this is what's going to be happening.
mhm.
So getting comfortable in those uncomfortable conversations, I think is a really good skill because I can't express enough how important it is to have the right people around you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And anyone who is trying to hold you back, and they're not doing it out of malice, they're just doing it because they're used to you being a certain way.
Yeah.
Sometimes you changing is just showing up a mirror to them. So they're like, oh, well, I maybe should be changing, but I don't want to do that quite now. So how about I keep you back here with me so that we can,
Yeah.
hang out in our comfort zone.
That's right.
So, you've got to give people grace as well, but it's important that you get comfortable with those uncomfortable conversations.
Truly, truly.
Yeah.
And so a big evolution for me as I've matured is I used to be more people, more fun.
Right.
I was more people, more fun. Yeah, woo! And I still love people. I'm a lover of people, but what I'm really learning and what I'm really honing is I am desiring more now than ever a depth of relationship. I
Yeah.
thought I had all these deep relationships around me, but they weren't. I was being deep with a lot of people, but they
Right.
weren't necessarily being deep in return. And so for me, I've gotten a little bit more emotionally wise, and that it's come with some pain and some
Mm,
recognition of how I very immaturely would give and then felt really hurt when people wouldn't necessarily show up for me the same way. And
yeah.
so that was on me. Like, that was on me. I really had to let go of that part of me that really wants to be a people pleaser and have everybody like me and to want everyone to be happy and be that emotional glue. That became exhausting,
Yeah.
and now it's not about do people like me, it's am I liking myself,
Yeah.
right? Am I really liking myself? Am I really putting myself first? Am I getting something out of this?
Yeah. I mean, this is the reason that you and I are doing this together.
Yeah.
And before we started, I said to you, I said, look, every time you and I have a conversation, I leave our conversation like resonating at a whole other frequency, which is really what I would love for our listeners to
Yeah.
walk away from this going, oh my God, that was awesome. Like I identify with so much of what's going on there. And
I have more energy, like, it just
see,
this I
I've
walked
already
away
got the
from this so
energy hit
full.
already. We haven't even
Yeah.
finished.
That's right. They're like, "Woo!" Like, I want you to be like you're plugging in, it's a main line, a plug, like, this
Yeah.
is a zap.
Yeah. And
Right.
here's the thing, like, I know that it can be challenging and sticky and messy and magical and all of those things that come along with changing and growing, but we have to grow.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Like, we have to grow.
Mhm.
So, if you're feeling like you're in that sticky part where maybe friendships are falling away and you're not quite sure what's coming next and you're not motivated by the same things and you're just like, what the hell is going on? Just know that you're exactly where you're meant to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're
Yeah, and
supposed to
let
go
yourself
through this.
and let yourself sit in it, and it's a privilege, right? That
Yeah.
sense of who am I letting I'm letting go of this part of myself in order to really expand into the next version of who I want to become. And that it is scary. It is scary,
Yeah.
and it would be really great if we were done, but this is the privilege of being a human being. It is messy. It is messy, and it is it's gonna press outside your comfort zone, but my God, be
And
in
I
it.
think what we're really saying here is that I think we're all going to go through it,
Mhm.
but we just have to get comfortable with being in the in between.
Yeah.
Like, get
Yeah.
comfortable in the, I don't know what's coming next. I don't know who I'm becoming. I don't
Yeah.
know any answers. That's what we said when we started these podcasts. We don't have the answers either. But being comfortable in that in between, I think,
Mhm.
is where we want to sit for a moment because you're not meant to have the answers yet.
No, not
You're not
yet. Yeah.
meant to know what's coming yet.
Yeah.
Once
Yeah.
once you know, that was when you were meant to know.
That's
But
right, and that
before
there's a
that,
real danger in reinventing yourself too fast,
yes. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That
You
that
don't wanna
that
jump into something else. Yeah.
Exactly, that you really want to take that intentional deep breath. You really want to give yourself the time to sit in the uncomfortable space. I love the word like the unraveling of
Yeah.
yourself. And it's like that's but sometimes when we're unraveling, we wanna make it tidy, right? So let yourself be a little bit messy and know that you don't have to reinvent it all and figure it all out in a minute. It's gonna be available to you if you sit in the space of, "Well, what do I want? Where am I going? What do I wanna feel? What do I wanna think?" You
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah. So, I mean, if there was anything that, if you're practicing stillness, like I was mentioning in the
mhm.
last episode, and you're asking questions when you're in that stillness, I mean, you could ask yourself questions like, well, what should I change?
Yeah.
What's my next move? What am I done lying to myself about? That's a
Yeah.
big one. Or
Huge.
what am I
Huge.
no longer willing to pretend is working
Mhm.
when it's not?
Yeah. Yeah.
And use these kind of questions to really go deeper into the messiness of what this time is,
What yeah.
and not feel like you have to have all the answers, and not feel like you need to reinvent or do anything other than just sit in the
Sit
questions.
in it. Sit in the quiet. And one of the things that's given me a lot of guidance in this transition from this Susan to that Susan and what, was work and now pleasure and that is like I've thought for 2026 I have a word which is alignment. Like I feel like the reason why I this isn't working for me anymore is it just I desire to be in greater alignment. And
Mm,
so really just giving myself permission to own that desire and just say it. I desire to live in greater alignment. I
yeah,
don't have to define it. I don't have to put bullet points around it. I just state it. I desire to be in greater alignment. I desire to be in greater alignment. And then it can't help but happen. And
yeah,
so these questions and also sitting in your desire, finding the word, what resonates for you, what do you desire, then all of a sudden it can give you some permission to just that's the work. Do the
yeah.
work. Right. So
Well, I hope you've enjoyed our conversation today. Our
yes.
next episode is going to be about why growth feels worse before it feels better.
Bum,
We're going
ba-da-dum,
to dig a little
bum.
bit deeper into that. And we invite you to subscribe to our
Yes.
channel, and
Share
share
with a
this with a
friend. Yeah.
friend, yeah, that might want to listen to these kind of conversations as well.
Yeah.
And so we invite you to stay kind and stay curious.
That's right. As you move through this very messy yet magical life.
We'll see you next time.